But first, putting aside the pageantry of the inauguration today, it's clear that President Donald Trump is wasting no time in pursuing his second-term agenda. In front of the media, behind the historic Resolute desk in the Oval Office, America's 47th president signed off on a flurry of executive orders, putting his mark on the new administration and very clearly distancing it from its predecessor. Joining me now, someone who's no stranger to the Oval Office, or the man sitting behind the desk tonight, is Donald Trump's former White House Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney. Mick, welcome to the program. Look, I've shown my viewers those images out of the Oval Office today, the president behind the desk on day one, signing hundreds of executive orders. We'll get to the detail of what's in those orders in a moment, but the unfettered access of the media to him, the open questions exchange, it's such a departure from the hyper management of the Biden era, isn't it?
Well, it is a dramatic change. It's more like what Trump did in the first term. He had almost unlimited access, or the media had almost unlimited access to him from 2017 to 2021. Even the media here, Peta, started to complain towards the very end about Joe Biden's inaccessibility. Now, listen, there's one thing the press is going to have plenty of for the next 4 years, and that's the chance to talk directly to the President of the United States. We stopped a tradition when I was in the Trump White House. Typically, the press secretary would have a daily briefing. We stopped that because the president himself was talking to the press almost every single day. I absolutely expect that to continue.
All right, let's talk about those executive orders. The border crisis, it was a priority. We knew that. So too energy, but also changes to US funding of the World Health Organization and declarations about gender. Now, he's very deliberate here. So how do you think Trump 2.0 will be different this time?
Well, what I tell people is that what they liked about Trump 1.0, they will like even more. And what they disliked about Trump 1.0, they will dislike even more just because he's better at the job. Keep in mind, when he won in 2016, it came not only as a surprise to a lot of people, it came as a surprise to him and his team, which means they hadn't done a lot of the work necessary to get ready to go into office. That's not the case now. They've hit the ground running today. He did 225 executive orders in the first 4 years. He may do as many as 200 this week alone. So no, it doesn't surprise me that it's Trump in high gear. By the way, it also doesn't surprise me. You mentioned the World Health Organization. That has been an issue for conservatives in this country going back to the beginning of the COVID pandemic, when the World Health Organization, which we fund to a substantial degree, would not allow American observers and scientists into China for several weeks. In fact, it may be several months. And that sort of gave rise to this, the question amongst Republicans, conservatives here, as to why are we paying an organization that doesn't allow us to actually do work with it? So it doesn't surprise me that was one of the, it surprised me as one of the first things, but it doesn't surprise me that it was on the list of initiatives that he wanted to put into place fairly early.
I reckon plenty of Australians were cheering that one as well. Energy, it's a massive issue here domestically. Now, we're all watching this very closely, particularly his decision to leave a number of global climate agreements and really fast-track US energy self-reliance. How's this going to shake up things at home and abroad?
Well, fairly dramatically. Keep in mind, it's what he's counting on. He's made a lot of promises, Peter, regarding inflation. Inflation is driven in large part in this country by government spending, and it's unlikely that that is going to change. So if Donald Trump is going to do something about inflation, he has to go to someplace else other than spending. And the two places he's looking at are regulation, deregulating, making it easier to get goods and services to market. That tends to reduce inflation, and then energy. Which we have a lot of in this country, as you do in your country, of a different sort. But we will be focusing on domestic energy production as part of Trump's efforts to keep energy costs down, because energy costs are a lot more than just the gasoline you put in your automobile. It's also the cost of a lot of chemical products, fertilizers that go into food, transportation costs, et cetera. So if he can get energy prices down, he might be able to do something about inflation, and he needs to follow through on that promise fairly quickly.
You've worked in the White House. I know my viewers want to know what's really going on behind the scenes. What's the mechanics of this transition of power? And given your window into how things operated previously with Vice President Pence. JD Vance is a very different character. So, what sort of role do you see him playing, Mick?
How J.D. Vance fits into this administration will be one of the fascinating things to watch. Keep in mind, a lot of the people around Trump have been with him now for 8 years. J.D. Vance has been with him for 6 or 7 months. So I'll be curious to see how he integrates into into the team, whether or not he finds his issues, finds his footing, finds a place inside the Oval Office and becomes a trusted advisor to the president. He might not. That will be one of the things that political observers here in this country for sure will be watching closely.